This is a video that I have been planning for months now. Okay. So, as we see the war on Islam enter into the next phase, you need to know that there are some Muslims that are outside the box of Orthodox that, in fact, have more in common with you and me than you might think. You've heard me discuss Sufi realities today. We take a deeper dive into his specific views and perspectives on that which oppresses us. Okay. I think many of you are going to enjoy it and appreciate it. Now, later on today, okay, because at the moment that I'm speaking, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. Later on today, I'm going to be discussing the many news and developments that indicate a possessed population. I'm not here to promote fear, but when I told you that I felt inside that there would be more sexual assaults, and now that I see them in the news, this is not something that I can ignore. Not only that, but I fear in a healthy way for friends and family at this time. Sure, we all may fear for our own lives and safety. I fear more so for other people that are innocent. As we witness these atrocities unfolding on Twitter, we're going to get into that. The sun is rising as I speak, and I'm about to get some of that sun as we start to go into this analysis. So there's going to be some commentary that I will share here and there along the way.
أعوذ بالله أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In the name of God, most compassionate and most merciful, that we are an energy being and there are many dimensions and many creations, that nothing is empty. As they teach us, don't waste space, don't waste time. God doesn't waste anything, so that there are many levels of creation and many realities of which we don't understand. The importance is, if we lead a physical life and we think only in physical terms and only emphasize on the brain, this life is just one dimensional, it's just its physicality. Mysticism and spirituality, which was the norm and now became the estranged and the less practice, is mysticism was that you had to keep a balance in life. You had to practice your physical practices, discipline the bad characteristics, and then what we would have is tafakkur and contemplation. And every language has a different word for the realization of the soul. There's a light within the heart, and our life's duty is to nourish that light and to bring out its reality. And God has given us all like a temporary existence on this earth, like a candle. And if we don't take care of that light, this world by its nature is to blow out that light.
Okay.
And
So we're going to pause here and there and just reflect on what he's saying, and that we don't hear this from the average Muslim that we meet on the street, unfortunately. And if you have, that's excellent. I'm happy for you. I have not. And I have been making content for years and have seen people that claim to be Muslim look down upon this man, which to me is a red flag right away. Because I've been watching this guy not on a regular basis, but enough to be able to scan someone's energy knowing humans and not detect anything visibly alarming to me that I sense is hidden about him. That he is generally an authentic servant of God. In that he is very different than even my own family, what he's tapping into. There's a lot of parallels in what we're saying with regards to the sun being a reset also. So he's talking about a light in the heart and this matrix basically trying to blow out that light. And there's a lot of ways that we can articulate that.
our reality of why we've been sent on this to earth for a physical experience, that we are a spiritual being sent for a physical experience. And the training of Sufism and mysticism is to nourish that light, to protect that light with the good deeds, the spiritual practices of meditation and prayer. And selflessness.
Now, there is a lineage of Sufism in my ancestry, unfortunately, due to, and there's aspects of this culture that are amazing, don't get me wrong, but you know what I mean regarding alcoholism, the worship of football, technology, money, right? Not that there's anything wrong with money, but putting those things before God can take someone out of balance. And so while my own father think that he's on the Sufi path, they haven't responded positively when I sent them links to this person, okay? So there are going to be people out there that think that they're New Age, spiritual, Gnostic, Christian, Sufi, this, that, and the other. There may be women that engage in yoga for the physical attractiveness aspect of it or the physical health aspects of it. And I engage in some yoga practices too. I'm about to start to attempt to learn more so that I can deal with my back pain naturally on my own because I don't have someone to massage that pain. And so I do certain exercises to get that soul essence going, especially when we have an explosion coming from the sun. Okay, then I will notice more pain in my back. And I can speculate as to where that pain is coming from as we release and release. But what he's talking about this world trying to blow out the slide, is something that we as content creators deal with when we also deal with other people that seem allergic to that light, which we're sharing or emitting. And in my experience, that could be something as simple as your life story. That is so different than the norm that people don't want to hear that story. Even if some people can personally be helped in some way, even if others can't be helped by hearing about that story or what someone overcame, others can. So this light that I speak of, or knowledge or wisdom, comes in different forms in different times throughout the ages. There's not just one kind of relevant light.
So those whom are only physical, the world teaches them selfishness, to be selfish, what they want to take. But God and the divine energy, by whatever name people want to understand the reality of a
also to interpret spiritual people that look at things in the unseen realms in a certain way as mentally ill with the various labels.
Much more powerful than ours, wants us to be selfless. And by selfless deeds and selfless acts, you can bring out the power of your soul. So which that is no longer just a little candle flickering in the wind, because the wind wants to take the light out. This world by its nature wants to take the light of
wants
the heart
us
out.
Selfish.
By spiritual practices,
right,
and joining spiritual masters, because they guide you. It's like having a sponsor that if...
Okay, time is of the essence. We're going to listen, but this is a 2-hour video, and my goal was to create an overview so that you hear maybe for the first time in your life a spiritual Muslim. So when the day comes when all the Muslims are put into a box, you'll understand now that there are people out there that are of that religion, that are outside the box of Orthodox, that are not against you. They're trying to free you. And you need to remember this video and conversation when that day comes in which they try to brainwash this entire society, because they absolutely, Shaitan, the devil, has their agents in the followers of Islam and other religions right now that are in place saying crazy ass things about Jews, about America, that do not represent the peaceful side of that religion. So let's move forward. I don't do tarot, but what I do is click on random parts of videos, and I go to random parts of books, and I have 2 of his books. His website is very involved, and he is being interviewed by 2 people. Okay? And so watching him by himself is amazing, but watching him deal with other people, because when he's by himself, he gets a little bit more into certain spiritual verses. For example, it definitely does not come across as orthodox, and you do not hear traditional, what some might consider to be a little bit annoying, traditional Islamic call to prayer. You know what I mean? I've never heard that on his channel. What I have heard on his channel is meditation music. You know, stuff that is very mystical that calls my soul. So let's hit play, and we're going to go through this at random. You understand? So I don't know what's about to be played. And many, many times I've clicked on random things for exactly what I needed to hear and what the audience needed to hear. Same thing with certain books.
Possession and sickness. So much of the culture doesn't understand this, and they used to. The concept of genius, when we use the word genius, was from genies. You had an abundance of a genie or a jinni surrounding, so that you had abundant flow of knowledges, because their knowledges are far superior to the human knowledge, unless it's a knowledge given by the people of the book, in which they study the book, and God gives them more powerful knowledge than the jinn knowledge. But even the term genius is from the jinn. So all of these were a part of the culture maybe 100 years ago, and spirituality was lost. And now people are wondering, what's all this stuff that are happening. But Sufism has a deep understanding of all of these, like a science for them. Most sicknesses and disease is caused by that realm that you don't understand. When that energy realm comes and one of them is nefarious and they just merely begin to touch your leg, they can send all sorts of sicknesses and negative vibrations within the vascular system of the body. So we're a very frail creation. When you don't have spiritual protection to wear, we have spiritual protections to wear. When we don't have spiritual practices and we don't meditate, we don't pray, we don't do our chanting, then you're just like a clay pot, and these creatures come into the pot, they make people sick, they make all sorts of difficulties upon them. So yeah.
So some of you may remember that I went to Las Vegas a couple of years ago. And what I did before leaving San Diego was drink some alcohol, which I don't promote, but sometimes I've slipped into it, when I felt high energy and want to come down. When honestly, and not everybody will agree with me, the proper strain of medical marijuana would be superior to alcohol. Or the right community, getting deep into meditation, deep breathing. But none of us are perfect. And I do make the connection myself between people that drink more and certain lunar, solar, and eclipse events. It sometimes brings out the obsession with some that are not disciplined enough to medicate in perhaps an unhealthy way. All right. Having said that, so back in that period when I was leaving San Diego, I went into Vegas with people that I did not know at all. Okay. One guy that I met at McDonald's who, with his cell phone and my computer, hitched a ride from another guy who just wanted gas money to get from San Diego to Las Vegas. And he was going through his own drama. So they had a lot of negative energy. I'm drinking and smoking cigarettes. I'm not drinking the whole time, but drinking enough to become weakened. And I am in this environment that's alien to me. And I'm going to try to keep this short and go back to him. The point is, I know that I became weakened, and by the time that I got to Vegas, I was very depressed and made videos about it, which depressed my audience too. Because they would have, gone to Vegas themselves and maybe had a better time and didn't realize that I was up all night. And that was not the ideal time for me to have a good time in Vegas. And I felt, getting to the point, that something was poking my face. When I was depressed and waiting for stuff to open on Fremont Street, which is not the best place you want to go when you've been up all night and you're drained. Because I, being a sensitive, knew that I was basically in a jinn's hornet's nest, already knowing about these entities. And I believe that when you are a being of light who talks about these entities and you go into their lair, they can identify you and F with you. And I'm going to pause there and just tell you. So basically, I dealt with a certain level of energetic torment. Then I came across, and I've been thinking about this lately, a couple of street kids. And I knew not to go down the street with them. And then there were these other street kids that were thugs that were giving me a particular look, like I was a tourist that stood out. Like I could have got assaulted on Fremont Street, which is a festive place, but also a dark place. And so when you have a lot of places, there's drinking and sexuality going on, and drug use going on and different things, and the great energy going on, and gambling going on. Gambling is not a good energy. and it affected my father in a very negative way. In this lifetime, at least, I have never had a gambling problem. Basically, if you're a spiritual being and you go into these negative environments, don't be surprised if things happen, right? And that even means going into something as simple as a mall that has a lot of negative energy. And I had experience that was interesting weeks ago.
They're everywhere and in everything. Most sicknesses are caused by their proximity. Most decay and bacteria is caused by their proximity. And the difficulties that are facing humanity is...
Yet many illnesses that some people face may be caused by entities if they were serving the archonic system. So without mentioning names, there's certain people that we know have fallen ill, that I know that have fallen ill. And I speculate sometimes that maybe certain actions contributed to certain illnesses. Having said that, illnesses do affect good people too. There could be entities that attack good people. Unfortunately, as human beings living in this world, we do, even spiritual people, fall upon, in some cases, certain levels of misfortune. I'm sorry to tell you. And in the videos that we're going to be discussing later, after this video, this is a warm-up. This is my morning coffee video with you, with a calm tone. We are seeing the rise in possessions and people attacking good people. And in many cases, elderly people. In the cases that we've seen recently, elderly white people in the city are being attacked. Not by all black people, but some that are on this attitude. Anti-white attitude of harming someone because of their heritage. It is archonic, and we were able to see this coming 10 years ago. I talked about it 10 years ago, the knockout games on women that were happening in New Jersey and the East Coast. And when was that taking place, folks? The previous solar maximum cycle. And I was aware of it then, that the solar maximum cycle was the overarching influence as to why in 2013 you were seeing more women getting knocked out versus 2016, 2017, 2018. It's not that all men in, say, a certain environment are going to be engaged in that behavior when the sun is more active, but a certain aspect of society will be going off. And we'll talk about more of those stories later.
Been taught by the Prophet of Islam that when pandemics come, it's the attack of the shayateen of the jinn. That when they come too much into the human arena and want to become too close to humans,
we saw people showing signs of possession before COVID. Even if some of you believe COVID was staged, still there were signs of evil in our world around that same time period. We talked about this.
Their nature, these nefarious ones, their nature is very dirty. They have a different understanding. Their body system, they release all of their waste through their skin, their smell, their sicknesses and bacteria. As they approach near people, they become sick and sickened by them. And their interest is to enter into the human being and attack the vascular system and the respiratory system. And that also we saw in Lord of the Rings. The fight is for the tree. If you remember the kingdom, the good kingdom where the king was sleeping and there was a tree that was burning.
So the theme here is the entities becoming sickened by humans. Now, he doesn't speculate light human, dark human, where I might, whereas a light being is going to really freak out some of these beings more than other humans. You know, I mean, you walk into a certain bar, and then all of a sudden all heads are turned around looking at you, and you're very different already than most of society. There's a reason for that. If this person were to walk into a certain bar in LA or a strip club, yeah, there would be some scattering of both physical and non-physical spirits.
It's the bronchial tree and the respiratory system of humanity, because it represents a great reality within the divine. And the negative force is...
This guy, the best of my knowledge, he is in LA. And if somebody wanted to introduce me to him or hook me up with an interview with him, we would do that. But I have not been able to get through to them as of yet.
is fighting to enter into human beings and to overtake the respiratory system, the bronchial
Okay.
tree,
Okay.
and to stop them.
Prince of the air. I don't mean to interrupt. No disrespect, but I feel like we need to flow with it. Prince of the air, the ionosphere, and something being seated in the eclipse with the people watching when they shouldn't be watching the eclipse. Sure, they should be getting sun, but I put out the warning so do the natives to not be looking at the eclipse itself.
From having a purified breath and from having purified experience, because the power of the breath. That when the breath is good, the zikr, the chanting, and all of the energy of the breath, what happens with that breath?
The
It's
zikr.
a divine breath.
What I am
That we've
feel
been given
attracted
this grace
to
by God as
are more the who meditations as of right now than the om. I've done the om for years and the sage, but I've definitely gone more to the Palo Santo, I believe it's called, the stick direction lately, in the frankincense and myrrh rather than sage, and more of the who meditation. And as far as martial arts is concerned, the occasional kya in private when I train, or getting some sort of like getting those vocals going too, and thinking in a meditative mindset when I do physical movements, not thinking high emotion, anger, rage, things like this. You know, and you've heard this advice before if any of you have trained in martial arts, to be like above an emotional state. Although there is a time and place to also bring out that beast, if you will, when you're in danger. But as this person talks about, that anger, that fire is actually not something that is good. Is something that is of shaitan. So when we and I and others, we become angry without reeling it back, we may allow ourselves to be an open channel, you know, for what he would call the shaitan's whispers, what I have called traditionally over the years the archonic interference.
is a secret for our breath. When
Same
that breath
thing.
comes into the
SSDT. Same shit, different day.
breath, it actually nourishes the heart. And then when it pumps with the zikr onto the heart and goes out to the lungs and the blood becomes purified and
sweated hours of
addresses
deep
all the
breathing
11
recently.
organs, you can see then the importance of the breath. And that's why all spiritual paths are based on the breath and the reality of the breath and how to sort of master the breath. All that been lost. And now we see all these respiratory diseases in the
I
last
try to connect
days
with
and
my
all the
plants,
sicknesses that
aloe
are
vera.
coming. And it's for that very nature. And that's why the devils, they don't want spiritual training. They
No,
don't
they
want
don't.
spiritual advice, so they don't put sheikhs and spiritual masters on any satellite that they control, and that's the difficulty.
Spiritual leader, spiritual teacher. This should be like the replacement word for sheikh.
So that this realm of the jinn,
We want to steer away
to
from
occupy the earth.
guru per se. Spiritual leader is fine, just as there are leaders and teachers with regards to martial arts. Remember, there is the martial arts of the mind, which is psychic self-defense, which does not mean striking out at the person that you're trying to defend yourself from, but more of an aikido deflecting. There's other ways other than deflecting energy back to people too. And what Leon the Gun also mentioned to me was just to go blank, was to see yourself. I don't think I talked to you about this yet. The body of glass, where you don't engage in mental mortal combat with people, but you become the body of glass, where you let it pass right through you. I have considered just letting you hear Leon the Gun for yourself if you're interested, because I have, just so you know, 8 hours of him doing guided meditations on private MP3s. I don't think that he would be a fan of me releasing all of it, but I don't really think there is a problem with sharing a portion of it, if some of you would appreciate it. So maybe over at Substack, because he is the professional meditation teacher, I am not. Maybe some of you might appreciate hearing from this man that did warn you about China. Maybe you might appreciate hearing him teach you how to ground. Would you be open to that? All right.
Earth and all of its humanity, and they want them to be enslaved by that reality.
So Leon does talk about the body of glass, which is not going into mortal combat with your perceived enemies, but becoming like blank and non-reactive. And then you stack that onto what I can tell you and teach you, along with Goenka on the internet. I haven't watched him on the internet. I watched him in real life, or I watched him on videotape when I went to the but it's basically about going into that observation breath where you breathe in, breathe out without necessarily going deep in that meditation, but you should deep breathe. Yes, yes, yes. But in that meditation, it's not deep breathing, it's as it is. observing that breath, but not being super shallow. You want it to be a normal breath, but to observe that breath and go deeper and deeper. So what I advocate, what I promote, and what I'll be teaching in future videos when I get in a super meditative mindset is the different levels and types of meditation, and to cycle through them like you would cross-train physical fitness, from aerobics to boxing to weight training to different types of weight training of the body. There's also different types of meditations. There's vipassana. There is deep breathing. There's the palm to palm and yoga breathing. There is what's called pranayama. To be
But
continued.
there are soldiers of light, and the kingdom of God is coming, and it's just a matter of people to prepare. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. God's kingdom is coming onto earth, and it's not a tailgate party. It's a kingdom, yeah, it's a kingdom based on goodness, righteous acts, cleanliness, piety and modesty and everything that we do. So that's the preparation. We can't do all these bad things and say, okay, I'm with God's kingdom. No, God's kingdom is very clean. Whatever you can think of the most purest reality is above that, beyond our even understanding. So in the Lord's Prayer, when we say the kingdom of God is coming, that means that we have to live a life as if God's kingdom is on earth. We pray, we fast, we do all of these practices. One, to make sure that God is happy with us. And the side benefit is that you'll be protected from all of these sicknesses
to jump
and
forward
difficulties
randomly.
and all of these negative
in 3,
energies that also are
2,
trying to make the kingdom
1.
on earth.
Got it. I'm sure there's great stuff here.
Well, it was a very
They be
now we're at 26 minutes in.
Remanifest, and their lifespans are very long lifespans, and their nature is fiery nature. They're not stable beings. As a result, their nations are always at war, and people are getting caught between their wars and their characteristics.
So he's discussing the archons
can be burned
now.
Accidentally by actions that you do at your home. So different things that you may do could burn one of the Anunnaki, one of their
Nephilim
children, and they'll take a lifelong war with the person. And as a result, that person may think they have lifelong misfortune coming to them. Well, because that creature's life is 1,500 years. So it would pass generationally towards a family. So yes, we have to understand that we coexist with them, and what's our duties and what's our protection and our understanding. But a society that doesn't understand anything about these things, then you can imagine that they have the upper hand.
They seem to. So this would explain a lot about such phenomena as, for example, Skinwalker Ranch. I don't know if you're familiar with that, Sheikh.
Yeah, I've watched the series on it.
It's a fascinating thing. I actually interviewed one of the men who broke that story, one of the journalists who broke that story, who first wrote about it, and they had personally spoken to a tribal policeman who had been driving along the road one night and came across 2 individuals that were basically, they looked like dogs in trench coats and hats, smoking a cigarette and leaning against the fence, which is absolutely bizarre. But in this context, it makes a certain amount of sense that perhaps the fabric around Skinwalker Ranch is weak, and it allows these jinn to come through and manifest. Is this?
No, it doesn't have to be weak at all. They have every right to manifest. It's for them like walking through a door. And their reality, because God created them as like an electricity with an enormous amount of knowledge, they can manifest as anything. They can manifest as a big cat head on a slim stick and walking down the street. They think that's their form of fashion. Their fashion is their imagination. Whatever they imagine, they can appear as, because that's their form of fashion. So that's no restriction. So Bigfoot, of course, if the guy wants to appear as hairy, he walks around hairy in the bushes. But as soon as humans appear, then they try.
Real briefly on the bloodline thing, I do suspect that there are bloodline curses. You've heard me refer to this, and that there almost seems to be the responsibility of the kin or the offspring to be more spiritual than their mother and father and their grandparents and those that came before them in order to heal from those generational curses. And even if the parents or grandparents see themselves as spiritual or something, they may not be accountable for past sins. They may not want to talk about it. They may feel ashamed. Now, twice now, I've shared with you a movie called Astral City, which used to be allowed on YouTube. And it was introduced to me by a friend who also said that the book, available on Kindle, is way more detailed. It was written in Argentina. It's basically the journey of a soul. I don't think it gets so much into jinn, archons, demons. I use these words interchangeably for those that don't know, but there are the people that have more of a distinction. I think the point is just to understand the overall spiritual warfare. So Astral City is the name of it, right? That's the name of the movie. It doesn't so much get into the entities, but gets into the spiritual plight of man and womankind in what we would call the afterlife plane, or the lower plane, or the Neverworld. Not to be confused with Peter Pan's Never Never Land, but what I call it the Neverworld, or the dark place, or the astral place, where some people end up after they die. Another video that I'll make in the future will have clips from Ghost featuring Patrick Swayze, where little black entities come and they take away the murderer to that dark place. So Astral City depicts this dark place and features a doctor dying in this place, or ending up in this place after dying. He had a lot of money. He ate fancy steak. And when he went like that, like a lot of humans. And he did not expect to wind up in that place, because in the physical world, he did so well. Does that make sense? And so a lot of people that are doing really, really well in the physical plane of reality, they don't know about this dark, dark place that I have lots of inspirations, as you know, with regards to like teachers now. And some of them you've never heard of yourself. I am, in a way, a teacher to you of different people on the internet that you've never heard of, even if you can find them on your own on the internet. I may be the first person to tell you about this guy. But anyway, what's the point? We are here to hopefully avoid ending up in the dark place, and hopefully to evolve to a lighter place, as the song says, up where we belong, beyond the earth, outside of the prison planet. You know, I'm critical of that guy, but I don't obsess on it, because what was said about him was said 10 years ago, before he became super bad and co-opted. But it's amazing how people want to talk about a prison planet, yet their propaganda and their way of life and their value systems is the type of stuff that leads to people to be recycled into a prison planet.
They veil themselves not to be killed, because if they get shot in that state, they're going to vanish from that. But at the same time, they understand the covenant. If they start to appear, then they've broke their covenant, and they're no longer keeping the boundary of God, and their lifespans then will be shortened. And that's why we say the apocalyptic time is when the Antichrist comes, which we don't say Antichrist because
I just want to pause. On that note, I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of Superman, when Superman is being told, you are forbidden from interfering in man's affairs. And so I think that what is alluding to are some of the jinn, because according to the Quran, there are spirits that are jinn that are not necessarily evil, that do serve God, but they're not necessarily man's friends or meant to, as he says, intervene in human affairs. However, I do believe, and it has happened with me, I think, possibly, that there can be a positive intervention from the spirit realm in a digital crisis online. Or there could be a spiritual intervention where maybe an angel, or the angel associated with, maybe the person that's harming you, if they have an angel or they are follower of Christ or God, notice he doesn't say Christ, 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 this cheat guy, but I respect him. You understand? We don't all have to say the same language. And I'm not stuck using the same language that I'm using now in 2024. My language and philosophy, I think it's evolving, but there are certain fundamentals. But anyway, there's this scene with Superman. And they're saying, and he's going backwards. He's trying to reverse things, but he's going, no, I'm going to interfere anyways because it's the right thing to do, because he's Superman, right? But there is something about that mythology. You see what I'm getting at? There is something about the mythology in Hollywood movies that almost seems like it came from somewhere else.
The one who comes to deceive all nations. So we have it in Islam.
Now he's speaking of the Dajjal consciousness,
the
Antichrist consciousness,
so
which is
Dajjal
here.
For us is called the deceiver. So he deceives every
We're in a time of
religious
deceit.
nation, every pocket of humanity.
The Arabs
And
are being
he is of
deceived. The
Jinn
Muslims
nature,
are being
and his armies
deceived.
are of the
Many
Jinn
of the
nature.
pro-Palestinian
When they
protesters,
decided
not
they're
all,
going to
not all,
show themselves and
not all
physically
are being
manifest
deceived.
themselves, then God gives command for
Some
the
of the
saints
Jews
to
are being
attack
deceived.
and
Not all, not
declare
all.
war against them. But for now, they're hiding themselves. So it's just teaching and going out.
They're hiding
and teaching
themselves
people on how to build
until or
themselves,
unless
how
they
to
want to be
nourish
seen in order to
themselves,
frighten.
how to survive these difficulties. And this war that they talk about, it's not a physical war. The humans, they will attack each other, and
But bringing light to them can bring, in some cases, bad luck or challenges to the truth speaker.
destroy each other because of the bad nature of the devils and the bad character. But what was important in the Lord of the Rings, this battle that's coming is from the unseen power. So when the humans were frail, what did they do? They went and asked for the allegiance of the king of the dead, and called them to come to be of service. And that's the same thing. When God rises and raises those whom have been given their spiritual realities.
My email is solarstorm333@proton.me. I've had 5, 6, 7 years to muse upon this. So this isn't just a fly-by-night new idea that I'm just like toying with. I've scanned through most of it. I think it's legit. There's nothing I have a problem with. There's nothing promoting devil worship or sex magic ritual. Although she does talk about the spiritual aspects of orgy. Although it doesn't get into that. With the right people, sex can be powerful and can be healing. But so can complete abstinence also in communities that are going to be in their higher centers also. Another conversation for that. But we need to be able to see men and women work together, spiritually speaking, without other things being the dominant. And that's the problem with modern society. Many men today are not thinking with their big heads or their activated 7th chakra or crown chakra. Many of them are trapped in survival mode, fight or flight. You know what I'm talking about, right? And especially when those solar flares kick off, it's like that shaitan's whispers. This is where my gnosis comes in. And not so much overrides this man, but adds to what he's saying in a whole other dimension where he's not going. We complement each other. So there is a dark aspect to this primal energy, the primordial, basically. There's a magical aspect to what Dion Fortune calls the primordial ooze. But there's also the dark side of it too. Pray for discernment from God himself, itself, for that power. And like I've said before, again and again and again, that is something that is maintained. Just like hygiene and cleanliness is maintained through the proper bathing and using of soaps and the brushing of teeth, which reminds me, I need to up that behavior with the coconut oil pulling.
Then it will be the unseen forces that come to the aid of humanity. Humanity by itself is very weak and unable to sort of survive.
So like I said, contact me if you want a copy of that book.
So
yeah.
There's a lot that Islam and Sufism understand about the last days and Armageddon, and it has.
There's a group on Facebook, Dion Fortune discussion group.
It's a lot to do with the Jinn nations and their ability to manifest or not manifest, and so yes, it's a deep science for us.
I believe in combining the ideas of Dion Fortune, Burl Payne, and some of the ideas that I've come upon, but I almost feel like we need a fourth counterpart. Let's bring this guy in. Although he's going to be the guy that's alive, but he's not going to be consciously participating. But his knowledge of what we would call the occult or aliens or UFOs is above and beyond. Now, if you know of other Muslims that are comparable to him that talk about the jinn alien issue, that's great. That's great. Feel free to drop a link. But, and by the way, this is probably a good time to tell you that there was a time, for those of you new viewers, in which I was not on the internet because I felt so attacked by these entities because of things that I've covered, among other things. Okay, more to that later. I'll be writing a book. If you click on the About section of my Substack, there'll be a link to my autobiography, Cliff Notes. It'll take you about 30 minutes to an hour to get an overview of some highlights. And you might get an idea that I've dealt with this interference. You might understand why I've dealt with this crap. Because I'm on this path of exposing them. And I'm authentic. I'm not sold out. I was born into poverty, and I'm pretty convinced I'm going to die in pain, in poverty, and not even know when I'm going to go. And know that I do have some health issues that I may be predisposed to that are genetic. Just to kind of throw that out there. And I'm aware of it. And people that know me and my family are aware of those dispositions. The warning signs are there, folks. But I believe that I am a natural athlete, and I'm gifted by God with intelligence, and enough intelligence to know about eating healthy foods and preventing certain things, and the medicines of certain things, and waters that's charged by the sun, and sitting under the sun, and eating habanero peppers, and taking in turmeric, and taking in more B vitamins, and taking this whatever Indian mysterious powder that provides a natural source of dopamine as opposed to drinking bad coffee all day long, and doing qigong and doing martial arts without, no offense to people that roll around on the mat all day long, I get it, but without necessarily having a partner and being hit in the head, basically. Practicing boxing techniques throughout my whole life without assaulting anyone or being assaulted per se on a regular basis, so it happened a few times when I was younger. But has not in years. In years. I can't think of it's been at least 7 or 8 years since I even had anything remotely close to an altercation. And so, is that an accident? And I think my parents and others that I know are mostly safe too. Even though so many people in this nation right now seem to be in danger. There are some of us that have been safe, and some of us know people and family members that have been safe. Thank God. And so God works in mysterious ways.
Cameron, go ahead.
But so does the devil.
I mean, you've given us such profound insight. Again, I hope that people in the audience recognize this. This is not information that is necessarily very popularly known, even in the Muslim world. This is something that is a lot of wisdom that is being shared with us. That's very special. It's insights and secrets of another realm.
There are Muslims that don't know about the prophecy of the rising sun in the West, which could be looked at as literally like a pole shift, or like Islam popping up in the West, which I don't support, but the idea of people coming to God, we're going to move forward here, I do support. I don't support the idea of mosques being built and Orthodox Islam being spread. And I view the New World Order using those folks as agents of the dark side. Okay. Now this man that we're looking at, that we know has intelligence, we know this man's got to know what the deal is going on with this NWO, 9/11, you know what I mean? There's no way he doesn't know, but he doesn't speak about it. In a way, I'm sorry to say it, if you're offended, it's like he's like Jesus or something. It's like he's speaking in parables, you know what I mean? Didn't Jesus say speak in parables, or that's somebody? Like, I'm not an expert on the Bible or anything. I'm still learning, guys, but there is something about speaking in tongues or in a certain way to get the message out. I believe Jesus did promote that. He's doing the same thing. He says he's not political. He's never said a negative thing about Trump that I know of, or Biden, or even like perceived genocide of Muslims, or even racism per se. I think he's touched upon it lightly. What he does is he focuses on the spiritual stuff, and then he puts in, like in his own videos, some commentary on the jinn in the machine, on his own personal videos, on his own channel. I believe this came from his channel. It did, but it features a joint conversation. On his own channel, he focuses on a lot of spiritual teachings regarding meditation and getting in the heart. We hear a little bit of self-promotion here and there about getting the books, but when you get the books, there is deep gnosis there that you can tap into. And for me, it feels like an activator, like a crystal, to hear his voice. And like I said in the past, I don't watch him often because a lot of it seems either super spiritual and some of it echoes my own thoughts or thought patterns to the point where it almost seems unnecessary to watch too much. But if I listen long enough, I can hear some sort of spiritual advice that directly relates to my life and situation. And if we want to cross-examine me, and people have, and they do, I don't live up to like my own spiritual ideals of what I think a perfect man or an aspiring perfect man, excuse the word Superman, but a more evolved man that excuse that word for those that are monkey men. Nothing wrong with that. We are kind of born into a monkey man reality. But I believe that we are to aspire to be more than this and to reach the stars, if you will. Certainly, as the A-Man did bless me many years ago, may your words and ideas reach beyond the stars. Moving forward now to the 40-minute time mark, and I do believe at this point they have. But are the light beings hearing what I'm saying? Or is it just, some dark observation from Saturn?
And then that any type of extremism isn't the religion of God. That's a manifestation of deceit.
There we go.
He has his agents in every religious agency, in every religious office, in every media platform. So it's not limited to just one or two. It takes the whole world. And this whole world now is sort of manifesting with all these deceits.
Do you see how he talks?
It's here, it's now.
In a general
how we're going to see through the deceit
tone.
And the only way to see through the magic is through the inner heart.
A general tone.
Right? So that when the world becomes darkened,
without saying names,
no longer detect this magic show.
Without getting political or pointing fingers. Sometimes I point fingers. Like there's a time to point the finger.
You'll see through your heart. So they don't train us to see through the eyes, because the eyes only see the deceit of whatever is being played, and they don't teach you to hear only what you have. But like when we started off in the talk, there's an inner hearing. So when I meditate, I have to connect with an inner voice guiding me on my consciousness of right. And
so when the sun is erupting, we should be outside in some cases, unless you're of a genetic inclination. Some of you that are pale-skinned are, in which you will get burned under the sun, and I understand that. I have sympathy for you. Okay, so you just need to know your limits. But you should be able to get, unless you do have an allergy and disposition towards cancer. And if so, I'm so sorry to hear that. I generally am. But there are still, I believe, unless there's something I don't know, there are people that are allergic to the sun. I don't know enough about why that is. Maybe we can talk about that. That may be a relevant issue. But the sun isn't, I don't think, meant to be, by and large, poisonous to humans at large. It's not supposed to be that way. So the idea is to pull back from the energies of the internet, the magnetism, the telepathic thoughts of the internet, and to absorb that life-giving juice or energy. Because what I did for a few days is do that. And then last night, I looked at the internet and went, oh God, This is a very bad sign. And it very much took me away from that sense of serenity. But I don't believe that we should even think for a second powerlessness. We should not think for a second that we are not spiritually. I just want to slap my chest strong like a wrestler, but I won't, it's early. Spiritually strong enough to be able to handle those dark energies and emotions that come when we click and look at certain headlines. So, folks, it's coming. We're going to be looking at the headlines after this video.
Wrong. And I have an inner sight. But if I use only my outer sight all day long, just look. Why does
I want to go forward with this, but right now I'm staying mostly chronological, but we've done jumps. But there's nothing that we're jumping over that we need to jump over. We're doing this at random to pull out random things out of the larger file.
These people to have so many tens of thousands of images on TikTok coming to their eyes. Well, because the eyes are the window to the soul. If you're trying to meditate and all day long seeing these very, very negative images from the eyes, and you're trying to meditate and keep your heart clean, it can never be clean, because the eyes are distorting, and the heart is like a hard drive. So everything the eyes are bringing in, it's the devil wants to crash the hard drive. So he has an intention for everything that he's doing, negativity, whatever people want to call these negative beings or negative energies. They just want to crash the hard drive and people not to achieve the light that they have to achieve. But when somebody begins to
see why they would manipulate the algorithm?
Clean their heart, they can begin to see through their heart and they see what needs to be seen. And
do you see now why you got to take some days off Facebook and YouTube?
Clarity through their heart. And they'll be able to hear, although all the lies and deceit that you're hearing everywhere, they'll hear with an inner hearing of their consciousness, all of their sort of controls. So there is a spiritual station being broadcasted from the heavens. But do we have the ears to hear it and the eyes to see it? And if not, we need to get there.
No, that's fascinating because
I started saying that
Twitter,
eyes to see,
example, Twitter,
ears to hear, and heart to feel after listening to this guy. So we're going to jump forward from 43 minutes to 1 hour and 4 minutes for not any reason. We probably skipped through loads of good info. You'll just have to go directly to the video yourself because we're playing the tarot card wild card line method.
Yes, my intention tonight, because I've been very interested in the Naqshbandi order in particular, and I wanted to tell the chat what we're going to do with your permission.
Sure, go right ahead.
So the Naqshbandi order, of which Sheikh Nurjan is a major teacher, is one of the great ancient Sufi spiritual orders. I've been attracted to it for many years. It has such profound wisdom, and his great teacher in the lineage, Sheikh Nazim, may God rest his soul, was one of the great saints of the past century in the Islamic community. And so what I'd like to do, and for all those who don't know exactly what's about to happen, I'm going to, with the Sheikh's permission, I'm going to do what is called the bayat, which is the oath of allegiance, which would allow me to be considered a student, a member of the Naqshbandi community. I have participated in other Sufi traditions as well, but I feel a very profound connection to this one in particular. And so if you'll all be willing to just give me 5 minutes of your time, I'm going to be doing the bayat, which will be saying certain things in Arabic. You might be like, what's he going on? But there are certain oaths of allegiances to God, to his prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, to the saints of this particular Sufi tariqah, the Sufi order. And so it'll take about 5 minutes of your time. Please stick, even if you don't know what's going on, please share with me that I'm offering my heart here in a spiritual allegiance with our teacher here. So, and then after that, we'll jump into super chats, and I'm sure there will be people who have deep questions for the Sheikh. So, I have the Arabic in front of me, but I'm new to this particular tariqah's approach, so I'm going to rely on you, Sheikh, to guide me.
Sure. Inshallah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Inna alladhina yubayyunaka inma yubayyun Allah. Wa yadallahi fawqa aydihim. فمن نقض فإنما يغوث على النفس ومن أوفى بما أهد عليه الله فسيؤتى أجرا عظيما رضيت بالله ربا وإسلام دينا وبسيدنا ونبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم رسول والنبي وبقرآن كتابا والله من نقول وكيل والحمد لله رب العالمين وقبلنا بسيدنا سلطان الأولياء مع شيخ محمد نازم حقاني شيخنا ومرشدنا ومولانا الشيخ محمد عادل, that by coming to earth and having a sickness, having a handicapness, or having less money than other people, whatever it is, there's an immense wisdom. So these children that have like what you call a mongoloid syndrome, they have an immense secret. They're not just regular children. When given to families, those families are basically taking care of a saintly soul. So these sicknesses that you may deem them as handicaps or sicknesses or whatever it is, because in our physical mind we only see one thing, in God's infinite wisdom that's a saintly soul, and it's come into that family to carry many burdens. Because if the ultimate understanding is that we're going to die and God wants for us a beatific paradise, not a beatific house in Malibu, that's a temporary life. He wanted us to have a beatific house in paradise. So when we come into this world, we come in saying, yes, whatever God has written for us, we try our best to fulfilled that. And many people come and forget what they agreed to give God and what they agreed to serve God with. And that's, that's its own wisdom. But when people are sick and have difficulties and hardships, God is cleaning in many different directions. And those people whom are sick, nothing is wasted in the way of God. They're achieving immense realities for their soul in paradise.
And so, by being denied certain riches and pleasures, we may be forged in reality to becoming a powerful being that is capable of doing a lot of things because we had to do for ourselves, because we didn't inherit any money or wealth, because we faced hardship and in some cases certain things. Okay. So, and then of course, some people are also gifted, and that is also from God. I've talked for years about people gifted with amazing strength, beauty, and intelligence, but a day comes in which that is robbed of us, in which we lose that. Because that is fleeting, that is temporary, that is given by God and can be taken away, just like our lives. Okay. So instead of confusing that amazing strength with ourselves, per se, we need to realize where that strength and that ability to fight, to have sex, to have kids, comes from. Because everything belongs to God.
So
That's what I have to say.
That is a very good answer. I wanted to let you know, Sheikh,
yes.
that
as I've said for years, I
here
also
at-
believe that even if there are people that are harmed and there's belief systems that God did that to them, I've said this repeatedly, that we should still try to help those people and not go, well, you're suffering because God did this to you, or have some sort of like what Mark Pastor would call New Age BS belief system, basically. And so there is a parallel with that and some religious
will
folks.
be making a donation, modest donation of $500 to your center. And
thank you, Chief.
Absolutely.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
My dear friend, Mexican Iron Man here.
I don't know the extent of his charity,
working with,
but he does
your director
have irrigation projects going.
See how we can get that.
This
Thank you.
Mary
God
Mahdi,
bless.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Sufi
Mike,
guy.
for all you do on behalf
Right,
of
he's
our
not just taking in money.
and,
Mashallah.
we love you, Mike.
Mashallah.
Mike is a Sufi at heart. He truly is.
Like
Oh,
I said, I
definitely.
highly doubt he's down at the strip club
But God had
throwing
a
dollar
different
bills.
plan intended. And when he revealed that, no, my deputy is going to be Adam, and that I've taught him all the names, and he assembled all the jinn and all the angels, and he said, look at the knowledge that Adam has. When he began to teach these knowledges, God asked everybody to bow down, to show your respect for the knowledge that I have bestowed upon this creation of Adam.
Don't mind if I do.
And all bowed down except Azazil. And when he did not bow down, God looked and said, bow down. He said, no, I'm not going to bow down. Then he says, you're cast out from this presence. And he wanted to show the angels that all his knowledge and all his worship, it didn't benefit him if when I told him to bow down, he said no. Otherwise, all the other times he was bowing down was for his own ego. But when I told him to bow down, he said, no, you're out. Go down, get and cast him out of paradise. So that's the same testing, is that if we do what we do out of arrogance but not for God, our life is going to be tested. It's not a matter of what I say, it's about my deeds and my actions, and God is going to test.
All uses, I don't think all uses of 33 is satanic or Freemasonry, but they do use 33. We know that, but it doesn't start with them, and Jesus died at 33. But it says that 1/3 of the demons were cast out of heaven. That Lucifer took his followers 1/3 down. 33 is 1/3. So we can look at that a number of different ways, but 33 is also very symbolic. 3s, 6s, and 9s, and that's another conversation. I haven't said it lately in a few days. I'm still seeing a lot of 144s and 441s on the clock, at a pretty rapid rate that I have not yet seen at this level. Let's continue to go through this.
So as a result, he threw him onto earth, and then this is his abode to now, because he got cast out because of Adam, he's not very friendly with the children of Adam either. And as a result, he's after them. He said, you like them so much, but I'm going to show you how bad they really are. I'm going to attack in front of them, to the right of them, to the left of them, behind them, above them and below them. So we have a satanic attack from 6 directions in our life. So as long as
Now that seems really significant, the attack from 6 directions, which I also picked up on the book. So the idea is like protection from like the front, the back, the side, the up, the down, and then the visualizing of the shielding also.
we know that, then God, gives us our protection, our prayers, all our practices as a means to protect ourselves from satanic attack.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate
Sure,
that.
sure.
Casey Asowski with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Casey. It says, hail to all. I'm not sure I understand all of this, but thank you for sharing this tonight. You've given me much to consider. Well, Casey, you're very welcome. And we try to, expand horizons on this show. And
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for having us. Yeah.
You're very welcome. Thank you for coming. And Zebulon Pike with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you, Zeb. Says, hail to the overlord, the amazing guests, and to the chat. Thank you, Zebulon Pike. You're very kind, sir. Kathleen Morrison with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Kathleen. Says, thank you for the perspective and the hope. Peace be with you.
Thank you, sir. Peace be with you.
Diego Flores with a 10 Peruvian soul super chat. Thank you, Diego. Says, may I ask, is it possible for people to be sensible to these forces and subconsciously try to warn us through works of fiction like the Daemons of 40K and their similarities with the Jinn? So parallels in fiction warning us about this kind of thing.
Was that the same as like when we said in the beginning that all the movies, there's a message in many of them? Is that what we mean?
Mm-hmm. I
think
think
in the movies and pop
asking.
culture and cartoons, many of these are being disclosed. So there's the one at night. What's the one at night? The gargoyles. Disney makes a cartoon called Gargoyles. Yeah, it's very real. Those statues, and that's why we don't have statues, because the negative forces, they occupy and they shelter themselves because they're electrical beings with no shelter. They shelter themselves within those statues. And Disney showed it. At night, at 6 o'clock, Maghrib time, they came walking out and they were walking around throwing things from the roof of the building. Yeah. And it seems comical, but it's also a way to introduce themselves to children that don't fear me, I'm something nice, I'm funny, look, and it sort of diffuses the children to, oh, well, then it's commonplace for them, where they should be scared of, negative forces, negative creatures. They sort of want to familiarize themselves through, popular cartoons and movies, which that can be very dangerous.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's something so profound, because I've experienced that directly in Hollywood, where I've been asked to put in things, because I studied a little bit of esotericism, I'm like, why are we doing this Kabbalistic thing in here? I know what this is.
No.
Why are we putting that in here, right? What's the intention of putting this little magical symbol?
I don't like this, I don't like that, and what's the kids bothering me? And then what takes away the child? So everything we are accountable for. And that's why then all the spiritual teaching is that, no, think good, pray good, have good actions. And all of a sudden you see that, all these blessings are coming into your life. Why? Because that good being that you've brought with your good deeds is now blessing you.
You're
continuously praying.
So prayer and meditation.
Yeah. Prayer, meditation, and acts of selflessness. Feeding other people. Feeding yourself is good for your digestion. Feeding others is good for your soul.
And you are here feeding us tonight, and we thank you, Sheikh.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Squire Waldo with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Squire Waldo. Says, some Jews believe there are 2 worlds, but only one God. We live in a world that is a challenge. The faithless believe there is only one world, but many gods, and they worship those gods. Are these gods jinn?
Yeah, that's it. That's what Quran says, is that you took these jinns as your Lord and Saviors. Because of the superior might and power, who brought these megalith structures? You think some slaves did that with a stick and a rock? But these were the jinn entities that would show their power and their superiority. And as a result, they were bowed down to. And what they wanted was the worshipping of people. And they said, oh, they're aliens from many thousands of years. They live for thousands of years. Their life is 4,000 years. So these manifestations and all these things that we're seeing, that's from their reality. And that's their existence and their power. And the importance of how to manifest our good nature and our good character is the immense reality of our being, how to bring that about and how to bring that energy about.
Excellent answer. Thank you, sir. Narat Anaxaman Bear with a $5 super chat says, what a great episode. I'm looking forward to many, many more. Thank you, Narat. I appreciate that, my friend. Lord of the Eagles Reaches with a €5 super chat. Thank you, Lord of the Eagles Reaches. Says, need more of these chats. We are all the same, different paths, same destination. Well, that's part of what we talk about here. Thank you, Lord of the Eagles Reaches. Douchebag Kylo with a $4.99 super chat, referring to Kylo Ren. We don't love the Disney sequel trilogy for Star Wars around here, Sheikh, just so you know.
Okay. And we said, Bala, yes, to the divine, the presence. And then we were cast upon this earth. So it was already pre-written what we would do and how we would do it, and would it be a hard life, an easy life? And again, because you have to have the notion that paradise is supreme, right? You want to come back and get the best real estate in paradise, because that lasts for eternity. Not to get a house on the material world only, but I want my eternal palace. It's eternal for me. So then the more testing, the more difficult the life that they took, well, then you can imagine then they're sitting very nice in paradise. Yeah. So when we understand that, then when we see sick children, well, those are very high level souls. A soul that God didn't want them to live 30 years and contaminate themselves with sins, and they lived 5 seconds, 5 breaths, and they left. Because He didn't want them to be contaminated. So these are maybe cherubim and angelic souls that everything has to taste of death. So everything is going to come through this Mother Earth and head back out. So there's infinite wisdoms on why people come, why they live short lives, hard lives, long lives, bad lives, good lives, everything. The one who lives a bad life, then there's a wisdom in that they lived a bad life, but then there should be somebody that comes to intercede for them, that you are your brother's keeper. That when people are doing bad or they don't have enough, then the ones who do good and have, they should be taking care of those. They should be praying for those. So there's a whole system that's been organized.
Well,
it's just a matter.
I've been, I guess, banking on believing what he's saying. I haven't really felt it, but I've been banking on doing good deeds. And even though I don't have retirement and never will, because the things that I talk about make me appear, and people say also that I have these mental diseases, when I don't believe that I have these mental diseases, that I believe that what he's saying is correct. There's many, 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 many people that discuss the paranormal. And I discuss it from a very confident, specific way. And I talked about the increases in sexual assaults coming, and they are here now. And now I need to say this, without getting too personal about my life, I need to say this. I am not happy to be right. I am miserable right now. And I see the writing on the wall, and I'm afraid for others. And I don't feel that when I raise my concerns regarding the things that we're about to talk about in the coming video, that my concerns are being heard at this time. And I fear for my safety. I fear for my safety because I do not feel that I am in control of my own life. There's reasons for that, and it has to do with my displacement from Colorado. Okay. Now, I am big on details, but I'm not big on details now. I don't feel in full control of certain decisions because I don't own my own land, and owning your own land makes you independent in a number of different ways. Even if you don't have a pooper or a toilet, you're independent in other ways. And that's why a certain person who's pushing back against the system, who owns their own land, will be targeted until they're put back into the danger zone where they're more likely to be harmed. I am now back in the danger zone. And it is not common in my observation for off-gridders, be they YouTubers or otherwise, to be or feel pushed back into the grid. I don't believe it's common. I believe it's uncommon. And I don't believe there's compassion for what I've been through. I believe that my return to the grid has been frowned upon and has been looked upon as something that was just like my own, shortcomings or something, which is pretty unfortunate. And so I don't believe that any off-gridders really in America now are safe for anything coming down the line, because off-gridders are going to be targeted eventually. I made videos about Far Cry 5, how they're training these robots to go after off-gridders. So a day is coming where everybody's going to be facing this tyranny until, of course, the machines go down from some sort of act of God. So there are people out there that have used this internet to do horrible things. And as this man says on his channel, if you look at his channel now and see what's on it, God is watching. And I said that too for years. You are all being watched. We are all being watched by God. And if certain things weren't done to me or aren't being done to me, there would be way more content exposing so many things on this channel. But I just sense like a malicious nature out there that's hunting the Gnostic, the truther, the person that can see. Just like that scene from They Live. I've got one that can see. There are people that are doing that crap. You know that? They don't say that. They don't say vocally or write in a post, I'm doing this because we've got one that can see. But when there is a certain type of patterning that happens over and over and over again, when certain events take place that I don't need to specify now in this podcast, but certain events take place, certain levels of truthing takes place to a certain quantity or number of people, and then boom, interference of a certain type to stop the message from going out. Or things happen in one's personal life, or an accident, or something else, or homelessness, or some other interference. There's so many different levels to it, but there's a reason why some souls are born on this planet, and they face it on one level and another, and then other people, they seem to skid by. They make the money, they have the partners, they have the children, they seem to have so much pleasure and happiness. Happy, shiny people holding hands. What I see right now is a very, very ill society. And that in many cases also, many couples, for example, appear to be under the influence of something where no one really is in control spiritually, where there isn't a higher self spirit in control. There's two bodies that are effing and sucking, so to speak. And so they're creating that chi or that prana, right, from that sex, and that sex energy is being vampired on by the entities, and it's really going nowhere to do something to empower either those people or the world itself through that sex. You understand what I'm saying? And we're not judging sex. We're discussing like the current way people are is such a limited expression of what is possible. And it is possible for us to communicate on so many different levels on the internet outside of even sexuality in terms of being kind to each other. But that's not happening, is it? And that's why, unfortunately, lots of people will take the microchip once they get the quirks worked out. Because many people without the microchip as it is are struggling a bit too much. And they may be duped into this belief that this microchip will enhance them, enhance their lifetime. And I'll be honest, it's tempting. The idea of living longer in this world is tempting because we don't, I feel, live long enough to really get things done and really build something for ourselves. And that may be for a reason, be it a good reason or a bad reason. So I'll just say this and we'll go back and close. We are not in our true form. I do believe that we are here to be more than human, and collectively we may have the power to do something about our enslavement. We may not be able to knock the evil one off its throne, Skeletor in the Masters of the Universe, if you will, or the evil bad guy in Big Trouble in Little China, or, you know, Solomon in Lord of the Rings, that is. But we may be able to do things to protect ourselves as the world goes through a transformation of something.
Everybody, you know, trying to build themselves, then this world will be a better place. But when the haves don't care about the have-nots, then it looks like, yeah, a horrific world. But God didn't make that. The humans did. They didn't want to come and take care of anyone, but that wasn't the rule that they signed up for. They were supposed to make it and feed everybody. They were supposed to go out and teach people. They were supposed to go out and support people. And then we had an uplifting of our spiritual reality. It's going to be on the heart and the power of the heart. And you close your eyes, play something nice, something that for us is like the salawats, Quran, something spiritual. If you want classical music, something that brings a sense of soothing and relaxing.
Tangerine Dream.
And you visualize yourself in a space of light. And the light is in front of you. From all 6 directions is light. And then asking God that I'm asking for your light. I'm asking for a connection. I'm asking that you take away difficulties from me and fill me with light. And I just start every day 1, 2, 3 minutes of just breathing. Breathing and listening to these beatific sounds. And why we don't meditate in silence is as soon as you sit and try to meditate in silence, you begin to hear whisperings about this problem, who did this, who did that, go get a sandwich, go get your email. And we call the whisperer that doesn't want us to reflect inside. So you play something nice so that you feel that sensation within your heart, something beatific. And then visualizing yourself in this ocean of light from all directions.
Subject F sent me some nice emails recommending some YouTube channels. The beats that go back and forth. What I'm looking to do is determine if the Brickstone, I don't have the model number for you, but a certain Brickstone Bluetooth headphones would be ideal. Noise isolating headphones. They're $25 retail. They're $15 discounted. I may go pick them up today, but I'm looking to get some good headphones, not headphones like this, but good cushiony headphones, so that I can do what he's suggesting and to really zone in and meditate deeply on the music. I have plenty of the music downloaded, but I don't really think that the headphones that I have are good quality.
And then just breathing. And breathing in and out and letting the energy to enter the heart. And not for too long that you get sort of tired from it. Just a few minutes every day until it begins to settle
Hold for a count of 8.
Feel an energy. And then you also do an accounting. That at night, that what did I do? What did I do to disturb that energy? Who did I harm with my person and with my tongue? And that way we can also correct our character.
Thoughts,
because just
anger.
meditating with bad character and repeating the bad action every day also takes away and diminishes the...
Leon recommended the body of glass. Instead of responding with anger telepathically, body of glass, and just let it go, pass through. Because a lot of people that are just moving this anger around. And a good breath. Deep breath in and hold for up to a count of 8. And then release up to a count of 6, 7, or 8. Start with what is comfortable. So out for a count of 8. And then back in for a count of 8 or up to 8, holding in for 8 and then out. Not so much holding it on the out, but a few moments. And then returning to just natural breath, which I have called or tried to enunciate as vipassana, which is just breathing normally. And just observing and being calm and scanning the body. We've done a little less talk about the scan. You can look up S.N. Goenka. He passed away a couple years ago, and watch an Indian version of this guy talk like for hours and hours about one thing and one thing only, and it's becoming completely like ninja mode, equanimous to like everything burning around you, which I think is a superpower to have. But I never believed ever that we should be completely equanimous to all things. But you want to have that superpower when it comes time to brass tacks to having to do the work. And what do I have to do as far as work? I have to go wash dishes. I don't mean literally. I mean, I have to wash the dishes in the coming hours. I've tasked myself with this today, folks, of going through with the tweezers and covering the headlines that need to be covered. Now that we talked about the spirituality and the meditation and giving you this alternative perspective in a day and age in which you're going to see a lot more persecution of Muslims, many of which are innocent of any conspiracy to bring you any Sharia law, but all the warning signs are there. And I understand for good reason why some of you are defensive to the idea of white supremacy being discussed or the perception that it does exist. I have seen, just so you know, though, plenty of people on Twitter saying, now we know white supremacy is the way to go. Because of these videos that are being pushed, we'll talk about it later, of the migrant attacks in Minneapolis and others, we see what I did predict. That one form of extremism or weaponized immigration, as if it's the plan itself, seems to be creating more hate. And yeah, now we know that George Soros is funding the DA's campaign and position in Portland, Oregon.
And the benefit. So every night I take an accounting that who did I disturb, who did I bother with myself. With
what
my
he's saying is important, and I did try to do that for 3 years, 3.5 years, when I took time away from the internet.
And then just slowly meditating and then trying to make that connection.
And recognize that I did make certain slips regarding the eclipse, feeling very powerful and confident, speaking on a certain level. I get it, though.
I know that it's a different culture, different understanding. But, you know,
we're going to close out here. I'm going to go out and prepare
well, I want to come to Vancouver
for my news program. I guess he's in Vancouver, too? Right. Vancouver and or LA.
Power on the head. Yeah, they put too much energy onto the head, and the head wasn't meant for that. And as a result,
the cell phones,
neurons, everything is fried up there.
See, so I'm hesitant to get the Bluetooth headset
of activating the heart.
Because of this.
If the heart is lit,
attack on the head.
Mm-hmm. So
now,
we have a whole
why do you think I'm wearing this? Why do you think he's wearing that? Mm-hmm. So you see the connection? The head.
If your galaxy has no sun, you can imagine.
You see the connection between their tradition and the head protection? Not about terrorism.
So God gives us a little galaxy.
Pause. Because I'm the guy to illuminate for you. How many of you have perceived that it's rational to have a tinfoil hat or to have the modern version of that, which is a commercialized product of a hat that you wear that is allegedly there to protect you from the effects of either 5G or Wi-Fi or just all around electromagnetic frequencies or ELF energies, right? And hats aren't cheap. They're overpriced. Yeah. So you can make them yourself too. Beanies too. I have a homemade beanie with that same shielding fabric. Anyways, you can definitely see a parallel with this concern about the head and to protect against from the conspiracy theorist mind control, and from his tradition, the voice is in the head, the shaitan's whisper. Different terminology. In my perspective, from my side of the street, same thing.
And then if we manage it correctly,
same thing.
And open
SSDD, same shit, different day.
It's reality. He says, now you can be a manager of my galaxy. And then opens the cosmos for them. So their spiritual ability is beyond this earth. That God has opened their soul and the reality of their soul for the cosmos, for the heavens. And that's why Sayyidina Ibn Arabi would talk a certain way based on not just the earth confines, but the realities of the heavens and above the heavens into the heavenly kingdom.
Thank you for saying that. But as the Sheikh himself has just said, it's not speculation. That's from the mind. He's talking about experience.
He has experienced this. This is his experience.
Yes. We don't talk from a philosophy. These are the experiences of the Sheikh and what they see and the dimension that they operate from. Otherwise, they couldn't give guidance on something that they don't understand. So the concept of guidance for them is that's their life, that's their realm, that's the realm from which they speak and they teach.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is increase the amount that I'm watching this guy to maybe from not very much to we just gave it a certain amount of time. So I'm going to personally watch now that I've given other content creators a certain amount of time, and you've heard me mention them, at least a half hour to an hour a week. And he has many, many videos every day that he shoots out. Many, many volunteers. He doesn't run the comment section himself. He doesn't have to deal with that, and he's charitable. And I'm drawn to listen to him where I'm not drawn to listen to any other Muslims or Sufis. But I'm sure that they're out there and they have interesting things to say. And so if they were doing, say, a talk, these other Sufis, and if they were doing a talk locally in your town, or if they were to reach out to me, I would connect with these other Muslims, just so you know. I'm not turning my nose up and going, he's better than them all. But as far as, like, me feeling an energetic draw, I don't feel like having, like, a bunch of mullahs or sheikhs or masters or gurus. Does that make sense? Having already listened to Alex Jones, having already listened to David Icke, having already visited in person James Gilliland, who's been on Coast to Coast many, many times, and I'll just spit it out. No, he is very forward with the women. And my friend Subject F told me plenty about him. Okay. And others have talked about him, and he's not really, and I'm not even telling you anything specific. There's a lot of distorted information from a lot of different people that are leaders in the conspiracy New Age movement. That's what I'll say. And I've said it for years, okay? There's something about the psychology of today's society, call it what you will. There's different vocabulary we might use to define it. But people are in a slave mind consciousness, to be frank. And I'm going to save this for the next video, a little bit emotional now because I'm alarmed at what I perceive to be the threat to women's safety. And, I get emotional bringing this up to people about the state of affairs that we're in, how serious things are. And what I sense is happening is they just shut down on me. And in the physical world right now, and we're going to close here. We're not crying. We're going to be spiritual. Got my plant here. In the physical world here, as it is right now, I am alone in this, as far as preparedness. I don't have the physical people in my life to deal with these things. So I have to, prepare physically here, but to know that I also may need to transport. And if I do that, then I can't take my gear with me. And I don't know where I would go in this region of the earth. It's not looking good. And so realizing that preparedness is way beyond stuff now and deals with the spiritual realm, as he's talking about, because we are dealing with harmful forces. And we need God to send his angels of protection. And that is why I have the Dion Fortune group. That is why I have honestly stated my intentions with this group. This is why I've sent even my mother a copy of this ebook, Subject F, a copy of the ebook. A certain person or two who emailed me and asked me for a copy of the ebook. And then, of course, I talk to people in the other Dion Fortune group and let them know what I'm doing. And even though they're not talking to me, sometimes all it takes is 20 or 25 likes. And that's all some humans are capable of, is just letting you know through the modern apparatus that they are there in spirit. And you are there in spirit. So we will continue, folks, to grow in spirit. In Jesus' name, amen, inshallah, namaste, shalom, and so much more. We will continue this discussion. Okay? More news on the way. Stay tuned.